In the heart of New York City, where skyscrapers slice through the clouds and life pulses with chaotic urgency, there stood an abandoned building. Its shattered windows reflected the moonlight like lifeless eyes of a city that had lost its soul. It became a refuge for those who felt invisible or lost, a monument to urban decay that most avoided. Yet it drew in those searching for something beyond the law. Not because it promised freedom, but out of a desperate attempt to escape the monotony and emptiness. Peter was an ordinary man until the day his life flipped upside down, as if trapped in an endless loop. A mid-level city clerk in his early 30s, he never stood out among his coworkers. Then the anonymous calls began, a cruel reminder that his life was being observed by someone who seemed to know more about him than he did himself. The first ring was strange. Hesitantly, he answered. "You have 10 minutes," said a distorted voice before hanging up. At first, Peter assumed it was just a cruel joke or some bored kids messing around. But the calls became more frequent, and with them came a growing sense of paranoia. The voice always gave accurate information about his day-to-day routine. "You're about to get on the Q train," or "watch out for the man at the corner." He began to feel trapped in a psychological game. On a rainy night, while staring out the window of his cramped, cluttered apartment in Queens, lost in his own frustration, Peter received another call. "Go to the building on Whisper Street." Fear, mixed with curiosity, drove him there. He had no idea what to expect. Maybe a face-to-face meeting with whoever was behind the calls, or just another twisted game played by someone with nothing left to lose. As he stepped inside the dark, damp building, a wave of mildew stung his nose. The walls were covered in grotesque graffiti, each symbol telling a story long forgotten. Shadows danced under the beam of his flashlight, creeping along the corners of the decrepit structure. "I'm here," Peter whispered to himself, trying to summon courage as he ascended the staircase. The air was thick with tension. Each step echoed like a drumbeat of his own vulnerability. On the third floor, he found a wide room filled with broken furniture and scattered garbage. At the center was a lone chair, facing him, empty, yet strangely inviting, like a silent dare to come closer. Suddenly, his phone rang again. He answered immediately. A low chuckle came first, then the distorted voice. "Welcome to my space." "Who are you?" Peter shouted, his voice bouncing off the empty walls like a ghost. "Just someone watching and playing." The voice continued tormenting him. The next few calls asked disturbing questions about his deepest fears. "What's your biggest regret?" Or "Have you ever hurt someone you love?" Every answer seemed to feed the sick curiosity of his invisible tormentor. Days turned into weeks. Peter became obsessed with the twisted game. He needed answers, but also longed for an escape. Deep down, though, he suspected this was all just another trap in a meaningless world. One stormy night, lightning flashing over the East River, Peter made a decision. He would face his stalker once and for all. The last message had been clear. "If you have the guts, come alone." He returned to the same building with a new kind of resolve. But something was different this time. As he entered the dark structure, his footsteps weren't the only ones echoing in the hall. A shadow moved. From the darkness, Marcus stepped forward, the man behind the voice. The killer grinned, feeding off Peter's fear. "You've been a fun one," he said, pulling a knife from beneath his coat. "The game ends here," Marcus added, lips curled in a cold smile, the knife gleaming under the flickering light of a broken ceiling fixture. But something in Peter had changed. His fear hardened into something sharper. Awareness, maybe even clarity. In that moment, fighting for his life, he saw not just his enemy, but himself, his failures, his shadows, and he fought. The brutal struggle between two men, both fractured by pain and haunted by the past, left no clear winner. Only deep wounds, physical and emotional, carved into their bodies and souls, a clash between what was and what could never be undone. When the fight ended, silence fell over the ruined building, now just a broken witness to a confrontation between two damaged worlds, vying for control over their own darkness. As Peter stepped into the gray light of dawn, the rain still falling over the quiet city, he knew one thing: nothing would ever be the same again. He was finally free, but forever marked by the anonymous calls echoing in his mind as he walked toward an uncertain future.